Hi guys, so welcome to the very first time out here from Basketball Ireland HQ. I'm joined by Matt Hall and Conor Meany, and we're just going to have a look back over the summer that was and also look ahead to obviously this weekend with the Men's Super League and the Men's Division 1 both tipping off from Friday evening. So guys, welcome to your workplace. Listen, the international, there was so much to talk about this summer from across all the age groups, and we could talk about this as its own show, but I suppose for each one of you, Matt, maybe we'll start with you. What was your own highlight of the summer?
I can pick two and shock you. Just two quick ones were the women's 3x3 beating World Championship bronze medalist Ukraine in their qualifying tournament to get to the finals. And then obviously one of the highlights of the summer, the under-18 women's. The whole championships were particularly the Irish team, and the support that the Irish basketball public came out and gave to them was just something I've not seen before in this country, basketball-wise.
Yeah, it was definitely incredible. It was a sea of green here in the National Basketball Arena, and you can still see those games on YouTube if you want to look back at any of them. And Conor, what about you?
I'll go with the lads, and Sean Jenkins for the under-18 men had 42 against Austria, which was kind of one of the individual performances of the summer, and the under-18 men as well, as much as it pains us to say that Jason did a great job coaching the under-18 men's in the 3-on-3. They did a fantastic job getting through the group stage, beating Russia in the group, which was probably unexpected, but it was a really great step for the 3-on-3, for the guys' side of the 3-on-3, which probably hasn't been as successful as the girls in the past.
Definitely. So, as you said, loads of highlights there, but we are well and truly in September, and that can only mean one thing, which is, of course, the start of the season. And today at the National Basketball Arena in Tallaght, we had the Hula Hoops National Cup draw for the senior division, so the 4 senior, 2 men and 2 women cup draws. Bernard O'Byrne officially launched the season as well. Just looking first of all at the senior men's, which of course is the Pat Duffy Cup. Current cup champions, of course, Griffith Swords Thunder, were here today for their photographs, but there was a couple of interesting draws there, Matt. What do you think of them?
Yeah, it worked out quite well. Is that there's strong teams or perceived strong teams at both half of the draw. But Swords Thunder and DCU Saints will be a tough one. DCU will be tough every single year, and then the winner of that will play UCD Marion, who, as Conor will know, for the last couple of years have been one of the top teams and look to be one of the strongest teams on paper again. And then first draw out, SSC Electricity Moycullen versus Maui. Nice home derby. Maui just come up to the Super League after many years dominating Division 1, so that will be really interesting for the west of the country there.
Yeah, and Conor, we mentioned UCD Marion, of course. You're one of the lucky teams who got a bye straight into the quarter-final, but there's some other really interesting games there, like Cubs and UCC Demons should be an interesting one. Demons, of course, travelling up to Greendale for that game.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Demons look like they're back on paper to be one of the top kind of couple of teams in the country again, especially with Colin and Le Mans back. So they'll be expected to get through that round and then really test Tralee in the following round if they get through it. But as Matt said, like last year's top 4 kind of split, 2 at the top of the draw, 2 at the bottom of the draw, and I think the talk around the Super League in general is that most of the quality has improved this year. So I'd say we could have some upsets in any of those rounds, and there's a lot of interesting matchups.
Yeah, and of course not forgetting the other fixture in that Pat Duffy Cup, which is of course regular season champions Black Amber Temple Oak. They're going to be welcoming Belfast Star for their game, with Aina and Clester also having a bye in that round. Moving on to the Women's Super League, the Women's National Cup rather. Obviously Glanmire going for 5 in a row this year. Can they be stopped, Matt?
Again, it's really difficult to know. In the summer, there's been a lot of movement in the women's game in the summer, and of course, in the cup, they'll be playing against Pyrewell Colester, who have Chantal Orford has changed from Glanmire till Colester. So that's going to prove a really, really tough first game away from home to Colester. Glanmire have a lot of experience, so they will be the team to beat. And having not succeeded in going to double last year, losing out to Courtyard Liffey Celtics, they'll be refocused this year, I feel, to try and repeat and try and prove their dominance again. And in the other half, you've got Courtyard Liffey Celtics versus DCU Mercy, which was the semi-final of the league finals. And again, DCU have been one of the top 4 teams for the last few years. So just in those 2 alone, there's some fantastic fixtures, not to mention some of the others. And the one thing about the women's game is it can change from year to year. There is those teams. Portlaoise have been an up-and-coming team. Brunel got to the semi-final last year. So Waterford Wildcats started well last season but fell away towards the end. So you just don't know, and it really could be anyone's at this time of the season. It's tough to know.
Yeah, and of course that draw earlier today as well. There's a preliminary round in the women's. NUIG Mystics will be facing IT Carlow Basketball, who were just recently promoted to the Super League, and we'll be talking about them later. And then Francis O'Sullivan's Charges down in Cork, that's Singleton Super Value Brunel. They're going to be facing Wildcats, as you said. But Conor, moving down into the President's Cup then, obviously cup holders BFG Neptune, who did the treble last year. They did the President's Cup and the under-18 and the under-20. They're looking at a tie against IT Carlow Basketball away in Carlow to start the first step of defending their title.
Yeah, I'd say they'll be relishing it. Paul has he's lost some of his kind of strong underage talent with Adam Drummond and Sean Jenkins going over to America, but Ger Noonan coming back into the fold. It's great to see Ger lacing it back up, and obviously Roy Downey then moving across from Demons. It means that Neptune are going to be probably the favourites for the league and the cup in Division 1, but again you kind of have to play these games and win them. And I think the other thing with both Division 1 and it goes to the Women's Super League as well is that there's a lot of victory scholars who play in Division 1 and the Women's Super League, and sometimes you don't know exactly what quality they're going to be until they arrive into the country. So that's why it's so difficult for Matt to kind of pick out teams right now, because you literally don't know what you're going to get. Some teams are going to be really happy, some teams may not get the same talent level. There is such a disparity there, so it takes a couple of weeks for things to settle down to really know exactly who should be favoured in a lot of these matchups.
Yeah, definitely. There's some other interesting matchups in there, particularly as we've got a couple of new teams into that division. St Paul's Killarney, they drew a bye in that first round of the President's Cup. Ballincollig, meanwhile, will be facing Dublin Lions. And an interesting matchup in one of the other games, Portlaoise Panthers, new to the men's Division 1. They're going to be facing defeated cup finalists last year, EJ Sligo All-Stars. Have you any thoughts on that game?
I've seen Portlaoise play, and I was speaking to Sligo All-Stars' new coach today, friend of Michael Bree, so a lot of pedigree there. I mean, for me, Keane Super Value, Cologne, EJ All-Stars and Neptune would be the three strongest teams on paper because of their Irish guys. But as Conor mentioned, who knows, with the amount of foreign players in the country at the moment, both European foreign countries in for college and with the victory scholars and Americans, it could throw up a lot of results we're not expecting. But certainly EJ Sligo All-Stars I expect to be very strong, and Portlaoise will be up against it in that game.
Perfect. Well, you can see the full draw from that President's Cup and indeed all the cup on the Basketball Ireland website, www.basketballireland.ie. And finally, moving to the last Senior Cup draw of the day, the Women's Senior Cup. We've got 8 teams in this draw, and of course the addition of 2 new teams, one of them being Griffith Swords Thunder, and Team Northwest is the second team from Donegal. Reigning champions again, Matt, and coming back to you, Ulster Rockets. They've a bit of a trip to make down to Dublin now to face Griffith Swords Thunder in the first round.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because don't know what's going to turn up with Griffith Swords Thunder. I would expect them to have a similar kind of way of their men's team and have some people in through the college, obviously. Ulster Rockets were very strong last year, but they were strong because they had 2 really good imports, and then they had a couple of players in Maureen McNally that had come back. So don't really know what they're going to have this year. If they're as strong as last year, then they'll be a force to be reckoned with. It's the same across a lot of the women's. Father Matthews, I think, will be fairly strong again this year because again they've an Irish-based local talent, so you wouldn't imagine there'd be too much difference in them. And Marble City Hawks obviously finished the season fantastically last year.
Yeah, definitely, and the final fixture in that game, in that division even, is Team Northwest, who are facing UL Huskies. Moving away from the cup slightly, the NICCs and the under-20 have also just been drawn in the last hour, and they're also on www.basketballireland.ie, and the under-18s will be up there tomorrow for any of you who are looking for the under-18 draw. But moving on to the Super League and to the Men's Division 1, the Women's Super League isn't starting until October, so for the next 2 weeks we'll be focusing on the men's divisions. A lot of interesting fixtures this weekend, guys. UCC Demons and Garvey's Tralee Warriors are tipping the season off for us, and it's down in the Mardyke. All roads lead to Cork.
Yeah, it's the same fixture that started last season, and it turned out to be a great game that Demons won down the stretch when I think Trey Pemberton, when he had just come in, got injured in the first half down there. Demons are a lot changed this year. They've got Colin back as player coach, and Lamont Colbert's due in. I don't think he was playing in their most recent pre-season game, so I'm not sure if he's in the country yet, which would, if he wasn't to be in the country, it could have a huge effect on Friday night. But Demons I think, will be expected to kind of be back pushing up the top four like they have been when Colin was last here. For Tralee, again, they've brought back Trey Pemberton, who was Player of the Year. The two big guys inside, Goran and Dusan, who are fantastic players and kind of the height that no team can really challenge. But the big question they'll have is that Ryan Leonard has gone over to America and how they're going to replace his production. And then the other part, that one of the big signings of the summer was Paul Dick to go down to Tralee, but Paul's been injured and has just had surgery, so he's probably going to miss the first half of the season. So I think there's question marks about both teams at the moment, and so Friday night will probably tell a lot. And it's the same with a pre-season every year in Ireland. You always end up seeing these games where there's, oh, he's supposed to be playing or he's missing and all these sort of things. So things kind of tend to bed themselves down the first week or two. So Friday should tell a lot.
Well, speaking of Friday, it isn't the only game going on Friday. We've got Mark Ingles Chargers over in Cubs facing off to Belfast Star, and quite a bit of a new look team for both teams really. Belfast Star of course have the Quinn twins even on their panel this year, and of course they brought Ryan Oliver over, who was so big for Ulster University Alex last year. What do you see about that fixture, Matt?
Star always play hard and play tough, and I think with the Quins back in this year, they'll be more in the middle of the table towards the top of the table, whereas last year they had a slow start and kind of picked up towards the end. But I expect to see good things from them. I mean, the two boys are fantastic players in their own right, and they've got a lot of support up there as well. You know, Ryan Oliver did well last year, although I've not seen him play myself. You would expect them to do well. I think Cubs, similar to last year, might struggle in the first few weeks. I know they're still trying to get everything sorted out, so I think this week might have come out a week or two too early for them, and I expect to see Belfast Star win that one. But Cubs, as they did last year, towards the end of the season, they really picked up. They've got a young team, so they'll only get better as the season goes on, which I suppose will be their target for the season. But this weekend, I would expect to see Star come through it. But again, Cubs have upset a few teams.
Yeah, definitely, especially towards the end of last season, indeed. But looking at Saturday, then we've if you're knocking around Galway City at all, you may hop on a bus and get out to Oranmore, because there's a big Galway derby going on out in Oranmore, as Mary, in their first year in the Super League, will face their near neighbours SSE Airtricity Moycullen. That's set to be a great game, if not for bragging rights alone, Conor.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's been a while coming though. Murray have been so successful in Division 1. There's been talk that they'd come up for about 5 or 6 years at this stage, so it's great to see that they have made that step up. And we were down at a pre-season tournament there last weekend, and the enthusiasm around the fact that they're in the Super League finally is like, you can definitely tell it's there, and I expect that they'll have a big crowd. It'll be probably standing room only in Calasanctus. They though have the issue that, again, similar to Demons in pre-season, is that their American isn't in, so it's they're in a race before Saturday to get an American in, because at this level, unfortunately, with Irish players alone, you can sometimes struggle, and Moycullen have an American in who they're pretty happy with, so that could be one of the big factors going into the weekend's game. Yeah,
most definitely. It's set to be a great one down in Galway. But swinging to the other side of the country for the other two games, Matt, we're looking at a very tasty clash there between Pirate Clester and Griffith Swords Thunder at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it should be really interesting. I saw Voice, their American play over the summer. He did the camp with us, so I've seen a lot of him play. And Clester, obviously, year on year, you know, they never have a bad season. You know, even when they look weak on paper at the start of the season, they end up being a really strong team. And this year they look fairly strong, so I think that'll be a really good game. Griffith Swords Thunder, again, I haven't seen them from what the boys talking about the pre-season tournament. They've got a completely new team, but again, it looks very strong. A lot of imports coming in, so it'll be tough for Clester. But at home, you know they'll have spent. They started early pre-season wise. They'll be well ready for they'll be the one team that's ready to kick off the season at full tilt. So it certainly won't be an easy game, and I expect to see a very close game in that one.
Well, what's interesting, I suppose, as well, if you look at their panels, at their rosters for the year, Clester obviously with a Jermaine Turner shaped hole, Keane Niall gone, Peter Madsen gone, Griffith Swords Thunder indeed missing Jose Maria Gilnarbon, who was one of the best players in the league last year, and their point guard Alex Calvo. So there's a lot of new blood in both sides, really, isn't there?
It is, and that kind of, you see that across the league at the start of the season. Even when you go to a Demons team with, it's almost a new team with Collins back, they're missing Roy. And you look right across Tralee Warriors, you mentioned they've changed a lot, so there's a lot of new players. So really in the first game of the season, second game of the season, although they've had a couple of warm-up games, it's the first competitive game, and anything could happen. Even the coaches with rotations, they won't really be sure of their rotations. They'll be playing everyone in the pre-season games. So now this weekend will tell a lot of who's going to be strong, especially when you consider there's so many matchups, so that even matchups going into this weekend. It'll give us a good look at most teams.
Yeah, indeed, and Joey Boylan's side will obviously be daring to dream as well, as they're facing off against regular season champions from last season, Black Amber Temple Oak, who had a superb win against Tralee in Oblet Hall last season to win the league. What do you think of that matchup there this weekend, either of you?
Yeah, it's Temple Oak would obviously be favourites, league champions. They've probably even strengthened their team. They've brought in a Spanish guy at the 4 who looks to be an excellent player. He's someone who's going to give Jason some rest that Jason probably couldn't have had in the past. Luke Thompson has come over from Aina, another shooter. So it looks like they've reinforced their team and maybe even a little bit stronger than they were last year. DCU, again, they're quite young, but then you see people like Owen Darling is back again, and James Donnelly, I think, has come out of retirement, which is great. And by all accounts, the American that they've brought in is a really strong player. He gives them that bit of size. He's 6'9", 6'10", but he can also score the ball, which is exactly what DCU kind of need, because ultimately a lot of their team is quite young, so every now and then you need to be able to just turn to kind of a veteran professional and just go, here, get us out of a hole for we haven't scored in a couple of minutes. So it'll just be a case of the longer DCU stay in the game at the weekend, the greater chance they have of pulling off an upset, but I wouldn't be too hopeful for it.
Well, and the final fixture in the Men's Super League, indeed, UC Marion v Aina, that's just been, they both are taking a weekend off this weekend, Connor, by the sounds of it. Off Gallivanton from Connor's sound anyway, but Men's Division 1 then, moving on to that. We've obviously some great interesting fixtures here. As we mentioned already, we've got 4 new teams coming in here. So actually repeated the cup draw earlier today, Matt. In the first game, IT Carlow Basketball are welcoming BFG Neptune up to the Barrow Centre in IT Carlow at 1 o'clock on Saturday. What do you think of Martin Conroy's charges and how they're looking ahead for the season?
Again, they've had their pre-season tournament. They've got a bit of the jitters out of the way, but different team to last year, as are BFG Neptune. So, I mean, Neptune, I think, won those games quite easily last year, but Neptune were a very strong team this last year, and it was, Carlow were just bedding down and struggled for numbers a bit. I think they've got more in terms of depth this year, which will certainly help them out, in terms of how they get on. Again, Neptune, I think, will be strong. You would expect Neptune to win that, but I think it'll be a lot closer than it was last year. And again, it all depends on how the Americans get on, in their first game, even when they're actually being, after a week or two, who you're being guarded. Neptune will have a plan for their Americans, so it's how they get on when they're actually being focused on a little bit. So it'll be tough to tell, but it'll be a good game, and as you said, a repeat of the cup draw. So
yeah,
they'll both be just trying to make sure that they don't win or lose too badly in this game, so they go with a bit of confidence into that big cup game.
And of course, Neptune have youth on their side, which they'll need this weekend as well, because they have a double header. They're actually playing at home in Neptune Stadium on Sunday as well, so that's going to be tough for them to start the season off.
It'll be tough for Jer. Coming out of retirement, first weekend, 2 games, and hope his calves hold up. But it makes a big difference, especially because you're playing. I mean, they're lucky they're playing 1 o'clock. A lot of the double headers are in the evening and the afternoon, and although you don't really notice, it does take a lot out of you, especially mentally. So it'll be interesting to see with a lot more double headers back into the league this year, how some of the teams get on those the second day.
It's also, Neptune aren't quite as young as they were last year when you consider that Sean and Adam are gone, and Heafy got injured in the European, so he's not even going to be around. So that's 3 of the core guys that were there for the 18s and 20s last year that were kind of very important for Paul last year. So, but when you can add someone like Roy Downey into the Division 1 league, he's at a class level that most teams aren't going to have anyone close to. So it automatically kind of gives them a huge advantage.
Yeah, and of course Neptune's opposition on that Sunday game are LYIT Donegal, Niall McDermott's side, but that's a double-header weekend for LYIT Donegal. It's a weekend in Cork for them, which I'm sure Niall is only delighted about. And their first game, of course, is against newcomers Ballincollig on Saturday. That's going to be an interesting one to watch as well. I think Ballincollig have a lot of an interesting roster for this year.
Yeah, Ballincollig, it's great to see them in the league, and they've brought back. I don't think they have an American, but they've brought Kieran O'Sullivan and Ronan O'Sullivan back from Demons, and in the same way that Roy's at a kind of level that you're not going to see very much of. Kieran is probably the best shooter in the country, regardless of league. So. Yeah, Ballincollig have a lot of talent, and it's great to see Kieran back with his kind of home club and see how he gets on. But Niall, from talking to him, I think they've got one of the best Americans coming into the league. He's pretty happy with the guys that have come up to LYIT. So in that same sense, it's really just we'll see how those guys are able to fare with the travel, and then also playing 2 games, because it's not an easy ask to go from Donegal all the way down to Cork and then play 2 games in 2 days. So it'll be a big ask for them, but it should be a good game.
Yeah, well, Ballincollig became the 3rd men's team in that Division 1. The 3rd one of them is Father Matthews, who are travelling up to another newcomer team, Portlaoise Panthers, who will be led by head coach Jimmy Ward this year. Matt, what are you thinking about Portlaoise? It's going to be a tough opening game for them, welcoming Father Matthews up the season side.
Yeah, it is. I saw both at the weekend. Jimmy wasn't there, but Portlaoise are a good young team. They've got a nice mix of young and old, but Father Matthews have a good bit of experience on their side as well, and played a lot of basketball down there in Cork. But Portlaoise have played in this division before, albeit 2 years ago. They'll be hoping to just to be a little bit more solid this time round, and maybe upset a few people. They had a good win on the weekend against Clogan, although Clogan's moved things around a little bit. So they'll be hoping for a good start. And again, basketball in the Midlands is up and coming at the moment. You know, there's a good buzz around basketball in the Midlands, so they'll be hoping for a few positive results, especially early in the league, to get themselves going.
Yeah, and then another new team to the league. Well, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's great to be saying it. St. Paul's Killarney, great to see 3 basketball teams in Kerry, Conor.
Yeah, it's fantastic. St. Paul's have been gone for a few years. I played against them Super League probably about 8 years ago. I think it was the last time I played against them, and it used to be a great place to go down and play Super League basketball. So just from seeing even on Twitter and stuff, there seems to be a lot of energy and enthusiasm behind the team that they've got. They've got a new coach from abroad. I think he's Serbian, has come in. They've got an American, and I think it's a Bulgarian point guard. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Well, it's often the question with teams like that is like, how many of the guys have played at National League level before? I know Mark Green is there, but when the coach has to go beyond the top 2 or 3 players, how many of those guys are comfortable, and how long will it take them to get comfortable in the top league when they are in the National League when they're back? So, but it'll be interesting to see, and as I said, it's great that in the same way that the Midlands has a lot of enthusiasm, definitely Kerry over the last 2 years has been fantastic to see all the energy that's down there.
Yeah, a bit of a daunting task. So for Dublin Lions, do you think, to be travelling down to the Kingdom?
Yeah, the Dublin Lions are very young. Nabil Murad is their coaching. We played against them in pre-season, and they're not big, but they really work hard, and they've got some nice players. They've lost obviously 1 or 2 young players. They're victims of their own success, really, in that they've got 3 guys now who are playing over in high school in America, who are 3 of the best prospects that Ireland have had for a while, and it's the sort of players that if they were all still here in Ireland, that they'd be almost Super League level playing already. So with those guys gone, it's going to be a big ask for the next group, but at the same time, I think Nabil and Lions really have a vision to kind of build that up over the next year or 2. So I'd say, although it's a big ask for them to go down to Killarney straight away, they'll be kind of looking to build throughout the entire season.
Yeah, and then the final game of that weekend is, of course, LIT Celtics, new to the league. Tony Hare at the helm. They're travelling up to EJ Sligo All-Stars. Of course, it is All-Ireland final weekend, so Aidan O'Shea won't be playing for them. But what do you think of that matchup and of LIT and how they're going to perform this year?
Again, a new team. I mean, they've got victory scholars, so a lot's going to rely on them. Last year they had a really good one playing in local league. An exceptional one if they had him back. If the one they've got this year is half as good as him, they'll do decently well. They've got Christian Burdat, who's an excellent player at Super League level. So if he has a good season, just the 2 of those will be the basis of the team. And then it remains to be seen who comes into the university. Obviously, it's a Institute of Technology, so at the moment, the first week again might struggle a little bit. But you know, if they get a few people coming into the university or that have just arrived, they might get stronger and stronger as the season goes on. But it's going to be a difficult season. Tony Hare's coached that level before, so an experienced coach, you'd expect them to do quite well. But again, like all the new teams, strength and depth is going to be the issue a little bit. They'll be relying on their Americans and their one or two really well-known players to do well, and maybe just getting through the season with an eye of improvement in the future. And you know, hopefully the team will be there for a good few years to come.
Yeah, well, I suppose that covers the Men's National League for this weekend. I suppose from an overall point of view, guys, is there any players you think we should be like ones to watch? I know it's a bit early in the season, but is there any, even from your experiences around international teams that you've been watching all summer, is there any up-and-coming players that we should be watching out for?
Tough question.
Put you on the spot there.
Well, if you even go to the Super League derby to start the game, Owen Rockwell will have a lot on his shoulders for Marie, especially if they don't have an American in. He's kind of one of their main guards beside Carl Finn, so he'll have a huge amount on his shoulders, and it'll really be interesting to see. He's been one of the best players, young player of the year, Division 1 last year, so hopefully he'll be able to step up and kind of deliver at that Super League level now over the next couple of years.
So no pressure there at all, Owen. And Matt?
Well, I'm not going to go for a youngster. I'm going to go looking down at something I was thinking about is Trey Pemberton. Not a slow start to the season last year, but was a good player. You know, you could see he was an excellent player. Whereas then he exploded after Christmas, making a lot of three-point shots, which really carried Tralee to a fantastic end of season and ultimately the title. Just be interesting to see. Connor mentioned Paul Dick's injured, so there'll be a lot on his shoulders this year if he can continue that three-point shooting. You know, second year in, people will be keeping an eye on him. They know what he's about now. Second time around, if he can continue that, because I think Tralee, with a few injuries early on, they'll really need him to be scoring those kind of points with Ryan gone as well. So it'd be interesting to see, especially with that team, if he can continue that early season, or whether he finds it slightly tougher this year. I mean, there's no doubt that he's able to do it. It's just whether, with a lot more attention, he can still do it this year, and that will kind of be the key to Tralee's success, I think.
Very good. Well, we look forward to all those games, and of course you can keep up to date on the games this weekend on our Twitter page at @bballirl. You can follow us on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and indeed we'll be hoping to get some of the games streamed out live over YouTube across the season as well. And don't forget, all the updates and previews and reviews will also be on our website, basketballireland.ie. We'll see you back here next Wednesday. Thanks, guys.